I'm Caitlin E, and welcome to the Lit Review. Today I am kicking off the Read My Rainbow Challenge, and this is inspired by a lot of different people here on YouTube. I remember watching Chelsea Dolling Reads do her reading my rainbow kind of vlogs where she would pick a color that she would do for a month or two, and just things like that. I've also seen a ton of other people, kind of do variations on this, so I'm in no way claiming that this is original. This is just what I'm going to be calling mine. So for the Read My Rainbow Challenge, I'm thinking of it kind of as one of those long-term challenges that'll just take as long as it takes, but it's a way for me to prioritize books that I'm genuinely excited about that fit a certain theme. I sometimes struggle with things like 5-star prediction videos because I'm really inconsistent about what would be a 5-star. So I thought this might be a better alternative and a more authentic fit for me in terms of books I'm super interested in, fitting in some of my love and passion for color and cover design, as well as being relevant for Pride Month. So happy Pride to all. I was a little disappointed when I thought back on my June Litland that I only squeezed in one book that would represent the LGBTQIA plus community in some way. But I had some really nice conversations with a subscriber, specifically KL, thank you, who made the great point that reading books with representation is not a monthly task. It's something I truly believe in, but it was such a good call out and reminder, just being like, hey, read the books all year round. It's still valid. It's still good. So for this challenge, I'm going to be using specifically this flag. It is the Rainbow Progress flag that I believe was debuted in 2018 and designed by Daniel Quasar. I'm really sorry. I looked up how to say and I couldn't quite find the right pronunciation. The reason I wanted to use this one is it's more foregrounded in visual inclusion of trans communities and BIPOC communities. So I wanted to make sure that that was accurately represented in this challenge of mine overall. But, selfishly, it also just allows me to put more books in there and use more colors. And, the rainbow's always better when it's bigger. All of this to say is this Read My Rainbow Challenge for me is based purely on the cover of a given book. But the other important thing is that all of the books I'm mentioning, to my knowledge, have some form of representation, whether that is characters that are within the LGBTQIA plus community or the authors themselves are part of the community. So one way or the other. And some of them I'm not quite sure about because I haven't read them. I'm going a lot off of self-reporting in places like Goodreads or Storygraph. So if I'm incorrect, that's my error and is not the fault of the book in any way, shape, or form. I don't have a deadline for this, and there's not going to be any punitive or punishment type things. So if I don't read them in a year, nothing's getting chucked. This is literally just going to take me as long as it takes. But it's another kind of long-term challenge for me to get inspired by on this channel. For Red, I'm going to do Simon and the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I've always wanted to read this. I've actually seen the movie and the movie's very charming. Obviously this is the movie tie-in cover, which I don't normally go for, but I just enjoyed this cover so much, but clearly a very red cover, so appropriate. Now this one, bear with me, it's gonna look counterintuitive, but for orange, I am going to use Yesterday's History by Kosoko Jackson. I know that this is very blue. I am fully on board with the fact that the cover is mostly blue, but there's orange in the center, and orange ended up being kind of a tricky color for me to find in my own collection, and there is prominent orange and yellows here on the back, but we're going to use this for orange. I'm actually very ready to read this book. I need to prioritize it better because it's a time travel YA male romance, and I just think that sounds flippin' phenomenal. So I want to put this a little bit more foregrounded into my life, hoping this challenge helps me do that. And again, I feel weird using this book for this color, but I'm standing by it. And this is also because I have been low-key avoiding this book because of its size. So that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. The size intimidates the living daylights out of me, but despite the fact that orange is in the title, to me, this cover is very yellow. So I'm gonna roll with the yellowness of it, despite the orange in the title. I hear nothing but good things. Like, this is a beloved fantasy book. I think for me, this is what's kept me from reading it, even though I'm clearly interested. So again, pushing this forward and gonna try to prioritize this in the next year. And for green, in stark contrast to Priory of the Orange Tree, I'm going with a very slim volume, and that is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This book was also a gift from Sarah at Sarah As You Wish, so thank you again for your delightful gift. I am very much looking forward to including it in this challenge. So from what I can find online, Seanan McGuire identifies as like pan or demisexual, so even if the content of this book is not explicitly LGBT, Seanan McGuire is a voice for that community, and so that's why I'm including this here. And then for the color blue, I decided to go with Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. This is also a gifted book. This comes to me by way of Ari from Prim's Book Cave, and she said that this was like one of her favorite surprise reads. I don't really know much about this book, but I do know that Rivers Solomon is non-binary and uses they, them pronouns. So again, even if the content of the book doesn't explicitly represent the community, Rivers Solomon always does. So I'm really excited to finally read some of their work. And then for the color violet, I decided to go with These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. I love books about witches, and Hannah, the main character, is a witch. She has to kind of like deal with her ex-girlfriend when there's like a magical problem that she's trying to solve. I'm literally knowing precious little except for witches and LGBT. Also, I'm just obsessed with this cover. It's very pretty. And then for the kind of triangle shape portion, we have white, pale pink, pale blue, brown, and black. For white, I am going to choose Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. So the protagonist of this novel is biromantic and asexual, and that's just a perspective I don't get to see too often in books, so that's definitely why I bought this book and why I'm really looking forward to reading it. I was going to choose a different book for pink, but this literally came in today, one of my pre-orders from Book Depository, and that's One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. So of course I had to include this. This is the super anticipated sophomore novel from Casey McQuiston, famous for writing Red, White, and Royal Blue, which, you know, would also work for the pink cover if I wanted to reread that. It's a freaking phenomenal book. So I'm really excited for her second book. And this also involves time travel. Time travel on a train. Female-female romance. I'm really, really excited about this. Just gonna state right now that this is a very battered copy. I did not do the battering. I got this from a free little library. Happy to have given it, hopefully, a safer home because it's seen some things. So this is my very battered copy of Less by Andrew Sean Greer, and this will be my light blue pick. It's a little literary fiction. I remember this getting a lot of hype several years ago. So the main character, Arthur, basically goes on a madcap literary adventure in order to avoid going to his ex-boyfriend's wedding. And then for the color brown, I picked up the only nonfiction on this list, and that is Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls by David Sedaris. I haven't picked up David Sedaris in a hot minute, but I remember loving Me Talk Pretty one day, so I'd like to get back into reading his nonfiction. And then last but certainly not least, it's probably one of the books I'm more excited for, and that is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This, again, I don't know too much. I understand like the basic premise of the book. How it's connected to the LGBT community is like I'm a little unclear on. I did see on Goodreads that like 200 reviewers or so tagged it with LGBT, so it may not be the strongest connection of all of the things up here, but I'm hoping to include it anyway because of those reader responses. I just really want an excuse to read this book. There are a lot of other good options that I could definitely use for this color, but I wanted to use this one, so we'll see. I'm hoping that Goodreads reviews don't steer me wrong there. These are my Reading My Rainbow books, again, based purely on the color of the cover as well as their content. This is my way of getting more of these reads on my radar. I obviously own them, but sometimes you just like forget about stuff that you own or don't quite remember that you were really excited about those things as the months go on. So this is my way of making sure that I keep pride in the core of my heart all year long, or at least as long as it takes me to get through these 11 books. But I'm really excited about all of these. I know I say I'm really excited all the dang time, but I truly am. I'm a very excitable person. Pride really is a forever thing and not just 1 month, and that's what I was hoping to represent with this challenge. I also invite you to do this too if you're interested in taking on a long-term challenge like this, or even if you just want to do it for the whole of June, that's cool too. I am not that fast of a reader, but you know, do what makes sense for you. Let me know if you have strong feelings about which one I should try to prioritize first. And we'll see what happens here, because there's a lot of heavy hitters on this list. I'm very excited. But again, happy Pride, friends. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you have a fantastic reading day. Like and subscribe if you want to see more from me or this channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!